Viewers, imagine the unbearable weight of dropping a loved one at the airport, waving goodbye with the casual assurance of a reunion, only to learn, before even reaching home, that their plane has turned into a ball of fire. For the families of flight AI-171, this nightmare became a reality. The Boeing Dreamliner, a symbol of cutting-edge technology with a flawless safety record since its debut in 2011, was not supposed to fail, viewers. It was not supposed to fail. From what I have read and understood by talking to experts, Dreamliner's composite fuselage, the fuel-efficient engines and advanced systems were designed to defy the odds, making this crash the first fatal incident involving a 787 that has shocked the aviation world. Viewers, the flames that engulfed the aircraft, fueled by a full tank for the long-haul journey to London, left little hope for survivors. The Air India flight, the Dreamliner, a marvel of modern aviation hailed for its safety and reliability, was bound for London. It carried 242 people, including crew. But just seconds after takeoff, as you can see in these pictures, at 1:38 p.m. local time, those dreams were consumed by a fireball that lit up the skies over Ahmedabad's Meghani Nagar area, just near the airport. Viewers, the plane barely reached 625 feet in altitude, issued a desperate mayday call before plummeting into a residential area, crashing into a hostel mess at the BJ Medical College. I'm sure you've seen the pictures. The wreckage tore through the walls, leaving debris embedded in a dining hall. We have those pictures where medical students had been moments before. Viewers, the world watched in horror as images emerged. Charred wreckage piercing a building. Videos captured the plane's final moments. Its nose pitched high, struggling to climb before it plunged to the ground in a catastrophic explosion, all caught on camera, viewers. Now the burden of truth rests on the black box, a name that we've often heard. The flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder. They are designed to withstand the unimaginable. These orange boxes, they're orange in colors, hold the key to unraveling the mystery of flight AI-171. Viewers, the flight data recorder logs thousands of parameters from engine performance to control inputs. It will reveal the technical story of those final moments, those final seconds. Then you have the cockpit voice recorder that captures the pilot conversations, radio transmissions, and the haunting sounds of alarms. It will offer a window into the cockpit's desperate moment. Together, they promise a second-by-second reconstruction of a tragedy that defied the Dreamliner's untarnished legacy. Yet their recovery from the smoldering wreckage is a race against time, viewers, and their analysis conducted by India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, the AAIB, and the DGCA could take weeks. The crash has sent shockwaves far beyond India. Boeing, already scarred, is under scanner and faces renewed scrutiny. Whispers of prior concerns, whistleblower allegation of improper Dreamliner assembly, past reports of engine icing, and fuel leaks now loom large. There are many unanswered questions. I'm sure all of this will be probed. But the most fundamental question, viewers, is this: what caused flight AI-171 to fall from the sky? Experts speculate on possibilities. A bird strike crippling both engines. Who knows? A sudden wind shift stalling the aircraft, or an undetected mechanical flaw. We don't know. Viewers, the plane's rapid descent with landing gear, and you can see in the video that we have, the landing gear was still deployed, suggests a failure that overwhelmed even the experienced crew led by Captain Sumit Sabarwal with 8,200 hours of flight time. That's a lot of experience. Viewers, let's open this up. We have a wonderful panel of experts who will help us unravel the mystery. Let's open this up. Captain Amit Singh, Parvez Damania, Devesh Agarwal, Tushar Gupta, Group Captain Dr. M.J. Augustine Vinod. Captain Amit Singh, let me begin by asking you, what do you think happened to the Dreamliner?
Well, whatever happened has happened in the first few seconds of liftoff. If you see the latest images of the aircraft lifting off, it lifted off towards the end of the runway, and there's a plume of dust which it raises. So normally when the aircraft takes off, you don't see that unless you are towards an end of the runway where the runway has finished or about to finish, unprepared or unpaved surface. And the aircraft then climbs very shallow. So there is something which is distracting the pilots. Normally when you take off in the first 5 seconds, the first thing you do is put the gear up. So which was not there. So there was some kind of a distraction which happened, or could be an engine failure during takeoff roll. We have a speed called decision speed. So above the decision speed, you're expected to continue with the takeoff because it is not advisable to stop. There won't be enough runway to stop. So if the aircraft is overloaded, or if the takeoff performance speeds are miscalculated, so there could be a combination of issues. Now there could be an engine failure, or the pilot is distracted, they forget to put the gear up, one engine has failed. So a series of errors put the plane down, not one single error. One engine failure is not an issue, the aircraft is certified, pilots are trained. But this will obviously be a series of failures, could be human factors and could be technical failures, or combined, both. Okay. That only the CVR and FTR will reveal.
Parvez Damania, I'm sure you know you've been speaking to your friends and you've seen videos yourself. What is your assessment of what has happened in this case? What went wrong?
I'll tell you something. What has happened is extremely tragic and very heartbreaking. First and foremost, I think we are all right now in the guessing mode. Till we find the black box and the cockpit voice recorder, it is very difficult to say really what happened. But it is quite shocking that it just happened at about 825 feet. The aircraft didn't gain any altitude. And what is the other thing shocking, this aircraft flew in from Delhi to Ahmedabad. If there was any issue engineering-wise, some technical snag would have been reported. There was no snag reported or anything. It took off from Delhi, landed at Ahmedabad, and took off from Ahmedabad, and it crashed. Now, the most devastating part is, because this was doing such a long-haul flight plus reserves, it was completely filled with fuel, and that is why the devastation of that kind of fire has occurred. Another thing, what I understand is, now that Air India is run by the Tatas, I don't think they would have cut any corners as far as engineering or maintenance is concerned. So it must have been very well maintained. The pilots were very experienced. One pilot at 8,500 hours, the pilot in command. The co-pilot about 1,500 hours. The aircraft also about 12, 13 years old, which is nothing new for a Dreamliner. And it's quite shocking that this has happened. You mentioned that there's never been any issues with Dreamliner, but I wish to just point out that there have been 7 incidents before this with the Dreamliner. In the past, since it was manufactured, there were a lot of issues with the battery in the past. But there has been no destruction of hull. This kind of accident has never occurred on a Dreamliner. So this is completely shocking and devastating. I think we are all guessing that the pilot's error, engine failure, this issue, that issue, but I think we'll see the black box will be found very soon. It's not fallen into the ocean or in the Himalayas or something. So I'm sure the black box will be retrieved and the cockpit voice recorder. And the minute the black box and the cockpit voice recorder is retrieved, we'll get all the information.
Okay.
I'm sure the government has started its own investigation. There's a new department that does just air crash investigation that's independent of the DGCA. They must have started work. I think we just need to wait a little to find out what actually happened in this crash.
Okay, let's bring in, Ashwini Kakkad. He's joining us. Also, Aurobindo Handa, former DG of the AAIB, which is the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau. Mr. Handa, good to have you, sir. I just want you to put this in context. When an accident like this happens, and most of it is on camera, you can see the plane taking off and then turning into a ball of fire. What happens next? When you begin to investigate, what do you look for?
As my London colleagues have told you, that the first thing is look for CVR and DFDR. And the next step after I would say the bodies have been taken to the hospital, then the next is the cordoning of the area so that the evidence is not sabotaged or something like that.
Right. So,
I finished.
Okay. Sir, many people are saying that the black box has not been found yet. How long do you think it will take for, authorities or teams that are there on the ground to look for the black box?
I'm not in chair, so I can't tell you, but I expect that by tomorrow morning the black box should be available with them. If not, it is not available with them as of now.
Okay. Mr. Kakkad, your first thoughts on what we've seen, the Ahmedabad-London flight, going down, just moments after taking off?
Yes, I think it's, first of all, very, very sad that it should happen this way, and also a lot of people losing their lives. And of course, that it should happen to Air India. And as the next step, that it should happen to Boeing, which has been kind of struggling with its own issues and problems and so on and so forth. But clearly, what is visible is that the aircraft was struggling to gain altitude. It also gave a mayday call. So obviously, something triggered that mayday call. I mean, whether it's instrumentation, avionics, whether it's mechanical failure, whether it's multi-level backup failure, whether it's engine issues, whether it's externalities, or, because it is hard to believe that it could be a maintenance issue, because the flight had just come in and the same plane was kind of going forward. So, I mean, the other things which are noteworthy are that, the flaps were not visible, at least in the videos. And the landing gear was still in place. And, the flight path has been well recorded in multiple videos. So that can also provide some clues. But as was pointed out, the data recorder, the voice recorder, the black boxes, and the videos will collectively provide some proof of what actually went on, within the cockpit, with the control tower, and, on the flight path. So this is definitely the first crash of the 787 itself. The plane's been in service for a fairly long time. There are, over 1,000 which are in service. But clearly the 777, which was the Dreamliner, the same series, one level before, has had quite a few problems. Right. Of course, not as many as the 737, but the 737 MAX. But obviously, these planes need to be looked at again. This was an uncrashable plane. Apparently, it had the best systems and backups and everything.
Which is why I began by saying that this was not supposed to go down. Certainly not like this. I began by saying that. And, I appreciate the points you've made so far. I want to quickly bring in Mr. Devesh Agarwal. He's been listening to this intently. Mr. Agarwal, your first thoughts on what you've seen?
I agree partly with what Captain Amit Singh is saying, that it could be a combination. I think he is the safety guru, and we have this concept in safety, in aviation safety, that an accident is caused. There's this type of cheese called Emmentaler, which is also in the US called Swiss cheese, and it's got holes in it. And so the whole idea is that it has to be a series of failures, and all the holes have to line up for an accident to occur. Now, at least I have great faith in Air India's engineering capabilities. At least, see, the aircraft may not be maintained well inside, but I think Air India has always had a reputation of sending out what we would call airworthy aircraft, the engineering team. Secondly, any aircraft has to be certified to take off on one engine with what is called MTOW, maximum takeoff weight. It means it's the maximum possible allowed takeoff weight by the manufacturer, in this case Boeing. And the 787, this is the first crash, and its predecessor, the 777. There was only 2 accidents, fatal accidents of the 777, both involving Malaysia Airlines. One is, of course, our very famous Malaysian Airlines flight, which is still not yet found. And the other one was MH17, which was shot down by a missile, over Ukraine. There have been no other 777 fatal crashes. One 777 crashed at Heathrow Airport because of icing in the engine. Right. So when it comes to wide bodies, Boeing has always had a very how do I use the word? It has always had a very, very good reputation. The 737 MAX, as I said, is an aberration, but otherwise the 787 and the 777 have got very, very stellar reputations in terms of their safety, the aircraft. I am not able to figure out why the aircraft is not climbing. Now, was there a miscalculation on takeoff power? Because we know that it was 37 degrees in the shade, so it would be probably 45 to 50 degrees on the tarmac. And I'm saying a person, a pilot of the caliber of Captain Singh might be able to tell us what would be the impact in terms of engine thrust. In hotter conditions, engines do lose, they don't produce as much power. Okay. Now, was there a miscalculation there? Was there a miscalculation on the weight? Is it a combination that we had a failure of one engine along with something else not being done? Because given the level of automation and electronics in the 787, I find it a little hard to accept.
Okay, so you're not ruling out human error.
Let me just 1 second, sir, just another 5 seconds. I find it very difficult that if the flaps were not set, the pilots would not get a whole bunch of alarms from the aircraft saying you are not in takeoff configuration.
Okay.
Please.
So you're not ruling out human error. That is no. The sum and substance of your argument.
I am saying we need to investigate. We have to get the 2 black boxes, the CDR, DFDR. And every investigation is not about pinning blame, but it is actually a
finding out the truth.
It's a learning experience. The reason aviation is so safe today is because over the last 50 years, every accident has been a learning experience, and it puts new procedures and processes into place.
Okay. Before I bring in Mr. Handa, who wants to come in, I want to go back to Parvez Damania. Tushar, I'm just bringing you in. Mr. Damania, I want you to open up, sir. You're being, being very guarded. This is not the Parvez Damania I know, or, our viewers know. What are you hearing from your highly placed, friends in the industry? What have you? What are they telling you?
No, I'll be very honest with you. Again, it's too early to say anything. We cannot say that there was a pilot error or some issue. I think, like everybody said, the black box will very be quickly retrieved, the cockpit voice recorder, and we will know the exact situation. Today, we are just assuming things, and like again somebody pointed out, Air India has good engineering records in the past. Plus, like I said before, once the Tatas have taken over, they must have been doubly sure of the quality of engineering. They must have spared no cost. No budgets must be cut here, there, to any cost in engineering. So I find it very hard to believe that there has been any cost cutting or quality of maintenance lacking. But there could have been some, like somebody said, this is the this is the first fatal hull accident of a 787. But there have been 7 incidents in the past with the 787. The plane has been grounded in the past due to some certain incident. The battery incident was very serious in the past on 787. So I think, like we said, let us just wait it out a little to understand really what happened. Right now, let's accept what has happened is very, very tragic and very, very sad. And the Civil Aviation Minister is right there on the spot. The Honorable Prime Minister has told the Civil Aviation Minister to investigate the whole situation. And I'm sure the DGC is doing its level best. The Air Investigation Accident Departments are doing level best. And I'm sure we'll know the truth, what is exactly and what the reason for this crash. But right now, to blame anybody would be wrong, I think.
No, we're not blaming anyone. You're right. You know, it's not right to blame anyone. It's just fixing accountability, because people who've lost their loved ones, you know, they want to have answers.
Oh, it's terrible, terrible. There can be. Yes, but I'll have to, like I said, we'll just have to wait a little for the answers, you know.
Yes, Mr. Handa, you were saying something.
Yeah, I will endorse what Mr. Damania is telling, that we should wait, let the AIB people take charge of the evidence, which they will be presently doing it. They've just reached, I think, about an hour back. After 2-3 days, let them cobble up a team of domain experts. That is the most important thing, which the team which will be entrusted with the responsibility to investigate all the speculations or conjectures which we people have been discussing, or all other TV channels have been discussing. So I would say that we should have patience, and we should allow the team of domain experts to do their job in a most transparent and responsible way.
You are right, which is why we are having this conversation with, you know, people like you. You're saying domain experts. Now, I have the former DG of the AIB. Who better than Mr. Handa to tell us about how investigations are carried out?
But it won't be fair to just jump to the conclusions without having any inputs from the DFDR.
Okay.
I have also seen the television shots which your channel or other channels were showing. So all of us have discussed that thing. So whether it is a bird hit, an engine failure, flaps. So let us not get into this. Let the investigation team do the needful, and rest assured, on behalf of AIB and Ministry of Civil Aviation, I can assure you that the team which will be formed will be a good one of domain experts, maybe from industry or maybe from wherever they cobble it up. Like we had done it in the I was in charge when the Calicut accident took place. So we went out and we took the people from industry. So I would expect the present incumbent, my successor, also to do the needful, and I'm sure he will do the needful.
Tushar, what do you make of AI-171?
Look, it's tragic beyond comprehension, beyond imagination. At this point, the only hope for all of us is to hope that the causality comes out sooner than later, and that causality is then deployed so that no future accidents take place. I think that is all that can be said right now. When the first visuals came out, there was a certain sense of disbelief, because such is the confidence in aviation globally, not just in India, globally. And now people across India, across economic spectrum, they take flights. It's very normal, from the far northeast to far up north, everywhere. So there's a certain sense of confidence in Indian aviation, and that will remain. But one thing is certain: the causality of it should be determined, just so that it can be deployed, so that no future accidents happen. One thing, since it's a panel of experts, I also want to ask. Last year, around March 2024, there was a flight from Sydney to Auckland that witnessed a sharp mid-air descent, flying at 41,000 feet. It descended around 400 feet before the pilot recovered the aircraft. Now, one of the testimonies of the passengers was that the pilot said that the instrument gauge had gone absolutely blank. And this was reported by Reuters, by CNN. So this wasn't just some online social media testimony, it was document testimony. Could that be some probability here? Could that be some similarity here? Because that was also 787. However, thankfully, the flight landed in Auckland. It was well taken care of. No one was, killed. Several people were injured, though. But the sharp air descent, mid-air descent, there be some similarities? There's a question for the panel there.
Okay, I'll get the experts to answer that, but I want to bring in Mr. Damania very quickly. Mr. Damania, I'm sure you've seen reports of a Boeing whistleblower who's said things about the company.
Yes, of course.
And before you answer that, sir, can I, take a moment and just play out what he said so our viewers understand what we are talking about?
I have analyzed Boeing's own data to conclude that the company is taking manufacturing shortcuts on the 787 program that may significantly reduce the airplane safety and the life cycle. Since 2013, there have been serious issues on the 787 program, not properly closing thousands of gaps in its assembly of the fuselage on major joints. Boeing's standard says that these gaps must be closed, usually by a small shim or filler called a shim when they exceed 5 thousandths of an inch.
Mr. Damania, this is what I was talking about. What do you make of, these allegations?
No, I've seen the program and I've understood the issue. But I'll tell you something, we have been working with Boeing in the past, right from the 737-200. Boeing is a very responsible company. If there were any faults, they would have corrected them or got them checked. That is why I said tomorrow, if certain issue would be found with this aircraft that was a manufacturing defect, I'm sure the government and Boeing will take action, and they could even look at grounding the fleet if the incident was, or certain checks would have to be carried on an entire fleet of 767. So like I said, Boeing and Airbus are the only two manufacturers left in the world, and all over the world only Boeing and Airbus are flying. So let's just wait and watch and see what happens. Boeing is a responsible company. I don't think deliberately they would overlook anything.
Okay. Group Captain Augustine, what is your reading of this disaster?
Wonderful question, Pranesh. A couple of things I wanted to make it very clear. There are plenty of noise out there. First, sifting from the noise, and since you know me, I talk logic. So let's look at this particular accident logically. Two reasons why an aeroplane immediately after takeoff tends to go down, sink into the ground. First reason is loss of thrust. Second reason is loss of lift. Let's demystify loss of thrust. If you look at the video very clearly, everyone is putting out the video. Nobody is turning up the volume. If you turn up the volume, you will notice the engine sound is there. So from the time the video has been taken to the time the impact, the engine hum is constant. In fact, there are technologies with which you can even make out the RPM of the engine. I mean, by now, many people can put it through any audio software and take out what is the RPM of the engine. So that said, second aspect is, in a two-engine aeroplane, if one engine fails, can the aeroplane continue to fly with one engine? Yes. All two-engine aeroplanes are designed to fly with just one engine at its max load, clear the ground, continue to climb, come in for an emergency landing. So one engine is enough. So now let us look at the third aspect. From the time you took the video to the time the crash, the engine has been constantly humming. Let us assume one engine was gone and one engine is there. If that engine was enough for the aeroplane to climb out. Now, I feel if both engines were there, the reason why I say so is, when you lose one engine, the aeroplane, yaws to one side or the wing drops to one side. You can make out clearly an aeroplane flying with two engines as opposed to an aeroplane flying with only one engine. It will have some amount of bank because on the other side, engine is at full thrust. On one side, the engine is actually dragging the aeroplane. So in my opinion, both the engines are there. Now the question is loss of lift. If you look at the video very closely, I've even taken a zoomed into the video and I've put it out there. In the Twitter, you can see it very clearly. The flaps, the trailing edge of the wings have gone up. That can go up due to umpteen number of reasons. Why has it gone up? Only two people can tell you. One is the flight data recorder, aka the black box. The second is the God. Nobody else can tell you whether why the flaps have gone up. It could be electrical, it could be anything. If the flap goes up, and with so much of load, that is, it is going to London, so much of load, so much of fuel, so much of load in the cabin and in the underside of the cabin, the aeroplane quickly goes into stalled condition of flight, aerodynamic stalled condition. And the margin, Pranesh, is so short that when you take the flaps up, you have to be very careful, even at 1,000, 1,500 feet when we take the flaps up. So you need to accelerate the aeroplane to a certain speed before you put the flaps up or before the flap goes up. The flap has gone up at a very low altitude, leading to aeroplane losing lift, stalling or very close to the stall. The drag has gone up because when the flap goes up, the aeroplane now goes into a nose up attitude, which you saw. As the nose keeps going up, pilot is trying to get out of the ground very fast. It is a battle that is already lost. Now you are in something called a dead man's curve. So you enter that dead man's curve, it is just a matter of time before you go and hit the ground. So long and short of it, sifting out all other noises about maintenance, about this and about that, this is what exactly it is. In this, the small aspect is, why did the flap go up? That remains to be seen. It could be anything from electrical failure to, it could even be sabotage. You never know.
Okay.
So the flap has gone up is the reason why the aeroplane has gone and hit the ground.
Mr. Agarwal, are you, do you want to add more to what Group Captain Augustine is saying? Do you agree with his assessment?
No, I think what he's saying makes a lot of sense. And as I also agree with Handaji about the AAIB, we have to, it is a great disservice to everybody who has lost their life on that aircraft. And I think I had 3 students on the ground. It's a great disservice to them that we should wait just 2 days, 3 days. This is going to come out quite quickly in terms of at least preliminary reports. The final report will take time, but I agree with the group captain that if the engines are powered up, then obviously there is some other reason why there is a loss of lift and the aircraft has entered an aerodynamic stall. Why did the flaps go up? Was it an uncommanded retraction? Was it an accidental retraction? We don't know. We don't even know if the flaps went up. Let us see. But for some reason, the aircraft has lost lift. That has to be looked at carefully. And I'm very sure that the AAIB will come up with the answers. And of course, as the US NTSB is coming, the FAA will come, Boeing will come, GE will come, of course, from India. It will be Air India. I'm very sure the Airports Authority of India will also be involved. So there'll be many people in this team, and the AAIB will get the necessary experts. One lesson, though, I hope the government takes from this is that the AAIB cannot be under it. It has to take a lead from the US NTSB. The NTSB is a direct agency. It doesn't have any parent agency. I think the AAIB should be removed from under the Ministry of Civil Aviation. It has to be reporting directly to the President of India, and its funding should come automatically.
Let's put that to Mr. Handa.
Yeah.
Pranesh, to be very honest, during my tenure, I didn't find any pressures from my secretaries. I was reporting to the secretaries and to the 3 ministers I worked with, Mr. Suresh Prabhu, Mr. Hardeep Puri, and Mr. Jyotiraditta Scindia. There has been there was total independence, which if you people recall that 8th August 2020 accident, Calicut accident, we made 43 recommendations on across all the verticals under MOCA, including DGCA. That was the first investigation in the history of Indian aviation in which we made observations on DGCA as well, on Airport Authority. We stopped wide-bodied operations on Mangalore, on tabletop airports like Mangalore and Calicut. And I don't think till today they have okayed the wide-bodied operations from there. But in the past, they had been cleared. So putting it under a different ministry or something is a government decision, and I would neither side with it nor oppose it, to be very honest.
That's a policy issue, you know.
Obviously, it's a policy issue.
But let me ask you something more fundamental, sir, if you don't mind. For viewers who are watching this broadcast, and because we have the pleasure of your company, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, how do investigations take place? How do you proceed with it? What happens first? If you could break down the process.
Yeah, I'll try to make it a simple thing, though it's a very detailed exercise. See, the first responders, because AIB is situated in Delhi, so it takes time by the time our AIB officers reach there. So in the meantime, the primary aim is to save the life. Even if we can save one life, that is the most important factor which comes to everyone's mind. And that, I must say, in Calicut and in this accident, all the agencies have done exceptionally well. Exceptionally well. The way the after crash activities have been handled is phenomenal. Now coming back, once everything has been over, the area, you must be seeing that the area that these responders had started cordoning of the area. AIB team, I think, would have landed by about by now. Certainly, they would have landed. So they'll start getting the whatever evidences is there. So they'll start segregating the evidence. The first being the CVR and the DFDR. The main focus will be on retrieval of CVR and DFDR. So which, as I said earlier, I think by tomorrow morning it should be available. Should be, because I am going by my experience. But based on that, then the further thing will be the analysis, the first analysis at the lab.
Okay.
So once that has been there, if it is not damaged, beyond something in which we may have to seek the help from NTSB and Boeing, you know, there could be a case. So let's pray that everything is okay, and then we are able to analyze it in India itself. Then the results should be that the prima facie what has gone wrong should be available to us within a few days.
Okay. Mr. Handa, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You know, we are being joined by Mr. Akash Vatsa. Akash was in the same flight 2 hours before it took off from Ahmedabad. He says he came in this flight he was flying Delhi to Ahmedabad, and he noticed unusual things. Now, Mr. Vatsa, thank you for speaking to Times Now. Can you tell our viewers what was so unusual that you found?
So I had posted a video because if anyone would have been at my place, if something unusual is seen, it is our responsibility to tell the authorities. So I just shared my video. So it was related to the AC, the in-flight entertainment, and the flaps, and there was something in the overhead as well. So first thing I would like to clarify is that I am not saying it that, you know, whatever I posted or whatever I have complained that has anything to do with the crash, because there are people on the social media who have been posting something negative comment. So I would just like to clarify through your medium that the things that I mentioned has nothing to do. Maybe they have, or maybe they don't have anything to do with the crash, right? Now the things I would like to explain in details. So AC was not working on the ground. When it took off, the AC compressor, it was like turning on, turning off. It was the temperature in the cabin was not constant, right? Second thing was the in-flight entertainment, which can be ignored. Third thing was that in the overhead, I was seeing this much of space, and there was a silver coil that I saw, silver coil and a black wire. So that is a part of, you know, manufacturing only. But this was the first time I noticed something like that in the overhead. The fourth thing was like the takeoff and landing, they were really smooth. But the wings, I was on seat number 25A on the left side, exactly right to the left wing. The wings were shaking too much. The flaps, the wings, throughout the flight, they were shaking. Never seen anything before, such thing before, to be very honest.
Okay.
So these were the things that were unusual for me, and moreover, I wanted to post it as soon as I landed in Ahmedabad, but I was there in Ahmedabad just for 8 hours, and I've just reached Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport, you can see, and I'm flying back to Delhi again on Air India.
Now, Akash, just stay with us because we have a lot of experts on the show right now, and I'm glad that you've being upfront about what you experienced. And I'm no expert, so I don't know what to make of this AC failure and in-flight entertainment, etc. And you said we can discount that, but Mr. Kakkad, of what you've heard from Akash, what is your reading assessment?
See, I think, as far as the parts are concerned, the internal thing has very little to do with any externalities. And I don't know what he made of the wings shaking or whatever. But I would say that on a normal flight, if you're sitting on top of the wing, there is a little bit of, you can notice things which otherwise would not get noticed. But I would just like to add a few facts here. The first fact, which should have been very heartening, unfortunately he lost his life, is the captain, Sumit Sabharwal, who had over 8,000 flying hours to his credit. He was a very, very experienced pilot. And while I'm saying that, normally air travel is the safest mode of travel, it's thousands of times safer than, for example, traveling by car or just crossing a road or whatever. But the takeoff and the landing are the riskiest parts of a flight. So, what they say is if you get over the first minute and the last minute of a flight, then you've done well, because all the other things are relatively much less riskier as far as flights are concerned. Now, the other thing I want to say is that, the flight seemed to be struggling to gain altitude. Now, clearly, obviously, the pilot was trying things, and he gave a mayday call. So I think that changes the situation quite a lot. If he had not given a mayday call, things were different. But obviously, he felt that things were out of his control, or there was some sense of
panic, a sense of helplessness,
desperation.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think these facts also will play their part as things obviously the black boxes, the voice recorder.
Now, Mr. Kakkad, on the experience of the pilot, Mr. Sabharwal, I want to quickly bring in Group Captain Vinod. Sir, the pilots commanding the plane have, they've recorded significant flying hours. 8,000 plus for the captain, Sumit Sabharwal. So what do you make of that?
Absolutely good question, Pranesh. There are two aspects to flying. One is called pilot flying, and the other thing is called pilot monitoring. Pilot flying is the person who is actually flying the aeroplane. Pilot monitoring is the one who helps the pilot flying by putting the wheels up, by putting the flaps up, etc. So in the sequence, the first thing that goes up is the undercarriage or the wheels. The wheels are down. So no pilot, even in the muscle memory, will straight away put the flaps up without putting the wheels up. So the muscle memory does not permit us to put the flaps up first. That also brings me to the next point. The call of mayday that the pilot has given is something that needs to be understood in its context. Mayday call is given when you are in distress. So the pilot was in distress. And that is why he told the ATC, mayday, mayday, mayday. The next level of distress or the next level of problem is indicated by another call called PAN. So it is not very serious, but it is less serious, but it is still serious, is indicated by another call called PAN, 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 PAN. So the difference is the highest level of distress is mayday, and the highest level of distress is what pilot has indicated to the ATC. So the flap going up is a very big question mark. And that cannot be answered except if we milk out the data from the black box. Only black box will be able to tell us why this loss of lift has happened. Because at this heavy load, if the flap goes up, the aeroplane goes into stalled condition very quickly. The margin is so low that it is sometimes as less as 4 to 5 kilometers an hour.
Right.
That low is the margin from the time the aeroplane stalls to the time the aeroplane can cleanly climb out.
Now, Mr. Agarwal, you know, there have been major air disasters in the past. There are several examples, you know, the one in 2020, the AI Express flight from Dubai, 18 people lost their lives. We had the Mangaluru crash in 2010, 158 people were killed. And, you know, it's playing out on the screen for our viewers to watch. What are the major takeaways from these accidents and their investigation?
One thing, if I may please just clarify for your passenger, the wing deflection of a 787 is as much as 25 feet. 25 feet is almost 3 stories in a building. So for the wing, because the composite wing is designed to be a highly flexible wing, that is what gives that plane the lightweight, the fuel efficiency. So the wing, shall we say, swinging back and forth is very, very normal. That is number one. Number two, to Handa sir, I will just say, I never ever suggested or even hinted that there is pressure from the ministry. I said the AAIB should take a lead from the NTSB and be a completely independent agency. Nothing else.
Sir, I didn't insinuate that. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to clarify that for you, sir.
Yeah.
And the takeaways, what I can see is the AAIB has made recommendations. I would ask Mr. Handa, sir, how many of those recommendations are still lying pending? And it's a common problem. It is not just limited to India. It is across the world that the accident investigator is making recommendations, and that's where their limitation is. They can't make policy. They can only make recommendations. So those recommendations have to be ultimately carried out. There have been cases where the NTSB has made recommendations and the FAA has not carried that out.
That's a great point, Mr. Agarwal. I'm just interrupting you to bring our viewers some breaking inputs coming in. We are now in a position to confirm that 2 people who were on board the AI-171 flight have survived, 240 lives lost, 75 people who were inside the hostel, the BJ Medical College hostel, they've lost their lives. So you add 240 plus 75. Tushar, that's a lot of people, lot of lives lost. 75 in the hostel mess alone.
Yeah, I mean, I'm speechless. One was hoping that at least in the hostel mess, there would be some lives that would have been saved, because the images that came from the hostel mess, they showed a part of the hostel that was hit by the plane crash, but the interiors of it was still pretty much intact enough to ensure that maybe, hope against hope, some lives would have been saved. But it's devastating. I mean, college students interning, medical students just having their lunch, and suddenly this calamity strikes them. I mean, what do you say? This is rarest of the rare events, and you can just only hope that this never happens again, Pranesh. There's nothing to be sort of analyzed here. There's nothing to be discussed here. It's just the causality one can look at and just ensure this never happens again. Because even now, people are taking flights across the world, not just in India, across the world. And you do not want any single one of them to be hit by a calamity that 240
right. Just stay with us. My colleague Hina Gambhir, who tracks aviation, like no other, person does in media, is now joining me live. Hina, the latest numbers are disturbing, to say the least.
Well, that's right. What we can first confirm to you, Pranesh, is that it was a miraculous escape for at least 2 passengers of this Air India flight. Earlier, we got information that there was just 1 survivor, but now we can confirm 2 passengers managed to survive this fatal air crash. Unfortunately, 240 people who were on board this particular aircraft are dead. That includes former Chief Minister of Gujarat, Mr. Vijay Rupani, as well, and there were 2 infants too. Apart from that, we are getting some more disturbing piece of information, and this is about the people who also have lost their lives because of this plane crash, who were not inside the plane, but who were outside on the ground in this building. And what we are getting to know right now is that there are about 75 odd people we are learning who have lost their lives. 75 people from the medical college have also lost their lives. That's the tragic piece of information, Pranesh, that we are getting for you right now. But 240 out of 242 confirmed dead inside, who were inside the plane. They are dead. 2 passengers managed to escape, and it is nothing short of a miraculous escape for these 2 passengers of this Air India flight.
So 315 is the death toll. If I'm not wrong with the math there. Hiten is also joining us. Hina, thanks for that quick update. Hiten, आप वहां पे साइट पे हैं, मुझे बताइए अभी जो हमारे पास आंकड़े आ रहे हैं कि 240 लोगों की मौत हुई है जो प्लेन में थे और जो 75 लोगों की जान गई है जो उस हॉस्पिटल बिल्डिंग में थे, मेस में थे.
जी फोर्स ग्रेविटेशनल फोर्स એનથી ડબલ હોય એટલે એની તાકાતથી જો ઉપર ચડવું જોઈએ ના.
बिल्कुल, देखिए मैं सीधी तस्वीर आपको दिखाता हूं कि ये कॉकपिट का पार्ट जो है, आप मलबा जो है आप देख सकते हैं कि इस वक्त यहाँ पर हम मौजूद हैं और ऊपर की तस्वीर अगर आप देखेंगे तो ये हॉस्टल का एरिया है. आप देखिए पूरी तरह जलकर सब कुछ खाक हो चुका है. हादसा कितना भयावह होगा आप ये सोच सकते हैं. ये कॉकपिट की तस्वीरें अगर आप देखेंगे तो आपको समझ में आएगा कि कितना भयावह हादसा था. आप देखिए यहाँ पर हर जगह आपको सिर्फ फ्यूल नजर आ रहा होगा. बताया जा रहा है कि 12 घंटे की जर्नी का फ्यूल मौजूद था. कितना था ये तो खैर कमेंट नहीं कर सकते जब तक ऑफिशियल फिगर नहीं आता है कि कितना फ्यूल था, लेकिन बताया जानकारी के मुताबिक 50,000 से भी अधिक लीटर फ्यूल मौजूद था. आप ये और दूसरी तरफ आप देखेंगे तो यहाँ पर आप देखिए ये पूरा का पूरा मलबा जो है इसी तरह रखा गया है. प्लेन का जो ब्लैक बॉक्स है वो अभी भी खोजा जा रहा है. उसकी खोजबीन जो है अभी भी चल रही है, तलाश जो है अभी भी चल रही है, क्योंकि ब्लैक बॉक्स जब मिलेगा उससे कहीं ना कहीं इस क्रैश के इन्वेस्टिगेशन में तेजी आएगी कि आखिरकार क्या हुआ था, किस तरह की टेक्निकल खामी थी. लेकिन मैं आपको बता दूं, अगर मैं आपको पूरा एक्सप्लेन करते हुए सिनारियो दिखाऊं तो देखिए इस तरफ से प्लेन आ रहा था. यहां से करीब 1 किलोमीटर की दूरी पर अहमदाबाद इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट का रनवे है. यहां से प्लेन आ रहा था. ये जो इमारत पे आप अभी भी आग लगी हुई देख रहे हैं उसके ठीक बगल की इमारत, वो भी हॉस्टल की इमारत है. इसके ठीक पीछे की तरफ आपको जो है ना प्लेन का बैक साइड का जो हिस्सा है वो अभी भी उसके इमारत पर लटका हुआ नजर आएगा, और बाकी का हिस्सा जो है वो यहाँ पर बताया जा रहा है कि इनमें से किसी एक इमारत से टकरा कर पूरा का पूरा प्लेन जो है वो यहाँ पर क्रैश हुआ और उसके बाद ब्लास्ट हुआ. और ये उसका मलबा है जिसे अब क्लीन किया गया है अभी बुलडोजर की मदद से. और ये कॉकपिट का हिस्सा आपको यहाँ नजर आ रहा है और बाकी का हिस्सा जो है आपको यहाँ नजर आ रहा होगा. आप सोचिए कितना भयावह हादसा होगा.
15 लोगों की जान गई है और वो जो तस्वीरें आप दिखा रहे हैं, द wreckage tells you the extent of damage and the severity of this tragedy, accident, whatever you want to call this, viewers. This is the most comprehensive coverage of the accident on Times Now. Reporters on the ground giving us the latest every minute as things unfold. We're taking a short break. Lots more lined up. Swati Joshi joins you on the other side on the News Hour.